please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to our special show, Global Guru. And our guru today is Mark Mobius, because Mark Mobius is back in India to start a fund. Remember, for those of you who haven't been around, and not too many of you will not know Mark Mobius, former executive chairman, Templeton Emerging Markets Group, he is now going to start an India fund and is going to partner with another company called Equinanimity Investments. Okay, Mark, thank you very much for joining us in what must be a special occasion for you. It's definitely a special occasion for us. If you can start by telling us how much are you going to invest in this Equinanimity Investments, and what will be your role in that fund?
Actually, Equinanimity is doing a very, very interesting private equity investing, focusing on new innovations, new technology, and their fund has just started, and I've invested in the fund, small amount, not a significant amount of my own money, and I think they're going to be doing a terrific job. As you know, I was associated with Rajesh Sehgal for quite a long time. We were working together in Franklin Templeton, so my interest is very great. Now, of course, on the other side, I'm interested in India on a portfolio management side, because I'm starting a new company in London with the express purpose of investing in emerging markets and frontier markets. And the focus will be on ESG, environmental, social, and governance aspects. So I'm now interviewing various research organizations here in India who might be able to help us in that effort, and we hope to be able to launch something by the middle of the year.
Oh, this is very interesting. Okay, tell us both then, how much are you putting in Equinanimity, your own money, and how much is the other fund, your emerging markets fund, going to have by way of a corpus?
I can't give you the exact amount, that's confidential, but it's reasonably significant in the context of what he's doing. And his emphasis, of course, is not necessarily ESG. His emphasis is on technology, new to the market technology, that sort of thing. In our case, in the company that I'm starting in London, the emphasis will be on ESG and activist impact investing.
Okay, but for your own fund in London, do you have any corpus in mind?
Well, eventually it'll be hundreds of millions of dollars. When we're starting, of course, it will probably start with roughly 100 million, but then we'll grow from there.
Okay. All right, 100 million is your fund. At what stage are you in this fund? Have you already registered with the authorities in London? Is all the legal stuff done with SEBI as well? Are you good to go?
Oh, we're in the process right now, and we're starting to recruit people, but it's going to take time. As you know, these licenses take quite a long time.
Okay, and well, let me come to this, this fund of yours in London. What do you mean when you say ESG? I mean, environment, social and governance means, in stock terms, what?
By the way, what I want to emphasize here is not necessarily companies that already have achieved good environmental practices or good social practices or good governance practices. We're interested in companies that have not achieved those ideals yet, but have the potential to improve. So that's where the impact aspect of what we're doing comes in. So it can be any number of companies. As you know, there are many, many companies in emerging markets and frontier markets that need big improvements in these areas. So that's the emphasis.
No, okay, no, I get your point. But see, when you say environment, we probably understand it as, say, a wind company or a solar company. But what do you mean by social? What do you mean by governance stocks? I mean, we understand FMCG and sectors like that. How should we understand social or governance in the form of stocks?
Let me give you a very specific example. There's a company in China that imports waste paper from the United States, waste cartons, and converts them into new cartons. There's an example of where they are helping the environment by reusing waste that would normally would be burned or put in waste fills. So that's an example. Now, then the next thing is we look at a company like this and say, okay, what kind of social impact are they having? In other words, how are they treating their own workers? And we went to this company and we saw that, you know, they were doing a pretty good job in cleanliness of the plant. I mean, you know, making something like that using waste paper is a very dirty business. But they were very, very careful in ensuring that the plant was clean and the workers were protected from any fumes and so forth and so on. That would be a social aspect of what we're talking about. And of course, the governance comes when, are they open to us? Are they willing to talk to us about the company? Do they listen to minority shareholders? Do they have equal rights for all shares? That sort of thing. Okay. And so, in other words, it can, when we talk about social, it could cover any multitude of areas. It could involve the employees of the company, but it also could involve the people they're serving.
Oh, all right, okay. Now, will this be listed stocks or will it be unlisted stocks that you will be looking at?
In the case of Equanimity, they're looking at unlisted. I mean, this is private equity. In the case of the company that I'm starting in London, this would be listed companies initially.
We have been speaking with Mark Mobius, the former executive chairman of Franklin Templeton Funds, who is now starting his own fund, Emerging Markets Fund, in London. Well, Mark, now about the current situation in the markets. How do you feel about the Indian markets? We've lost about, 8% in the past month from the recent all-time highs. Does it look like we may lose more?
Yes, I think it's possible to have more correction. You must remember that not only India, but the U.S. market and many other markets around the world, particularly the developed markets in Europe and the U.S., have reached high points. On a historical basis, there is reason to believe that you're going to have corrections from these very high levels that we're seeing now. And so in talking to investors, I tell them, look, keep some dry powder, keep some cash available for the opportunity when the markets correct and come down. The interesting thing about the developments now is that with the U.S. dollar getting weaker, emerging markets are looking pretty good. But of course, they would be affected if there's a significant downturn.
Okay. Well, actually, I was going to ask you about global markets just as well. In 2018, do you see higher inflation and higher yields, and will that have a big impact on equity markets?
Well, if there's higher inflation, that would be very good for equities, particularly if interest rates don't catch up. So you have a negative real rate. This usually is, generally will be good for equities. So we have to watch that space carefully. There's no question interest rates are going up. The Fed is definitely going to want to raise interest rates, particularly if the unemployment situation improves in America. So you have that aspect. On the other side, of course, a weaker dollar changes the picture as well. That may attract money coming into the U.S., but more likely money will be quite cautious in the face of a weaker dollar, which will be good for other markets, including emerging markets.
Okay, well, that's a positive at least, and so far it's working. But let me come to Indian banks. They're going through a terribly rough patch. Already for the past several quarters, they've been declaring larger and larger NPAs or bad loans. And now there is this near $2 billion fraud in Punjab National Bank. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is quite an amazing situation with Punjab National Bank. But you must remember, it is prevalent globally. You have fraud in every direction in banks around the world. I mean, and it's just not in India, it's not just in China, it's not just in the US, it's happening globally. Despite all of the regulatory efforts, you do have these cases. But it comes down to confidence. At the end of the day, if you take the case of Punjab National Bank, the Indian government is going to step in and say, look, we will not allow this bank to get into trouble, and we'll work something out at the end of the day. So I'm not that worried about it, because we realize that these things do happen. The good news is the fact that it did come out, it was revealed, means that all the banks will be ultra careful to look at their systems, because definitely there have been faulty systems that something like this can happen.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're looking at it positively. But how are you looking at the Indian market, say, 12 to 18 months down the line? Because there are going to be a spate of elections from now to then.
Yeah, we'll be watching that very carefully, because the degree to which that the reforms that Modi is implementing has implemented, if there's any pullback, any step backwards, that would be bad news. I don't think that will happen. I believe that the benefits that the reforms already implemented have had on the society as a whole will be reinforcing the need for more such reforms. So we're very positive about India, as you know. We think India is now on the takeoff stage and will probably surpass China in terms of growth going forward.
I've been speaking with Mark Mobius, the former executive chairman of the Franklin Templeton funds. He's now starting his own emerging markets fund from London, and as well participating in a private equity fund in India. Well, Mark, thank you for your patience and for waiting for us. Well, since you say you want to be investing in India, what looks attractive to you in India right now?
I would start with the banks. The fact that you've had this this situation with the banks are going to continue to survive and thrive, and I would focus on those banks that are improving their digital offering, because, as you know, there are incredible improvements being made in the digital side, and the government's efforts, by the way, this is one government reform that's been very, very beneficial in setting up this payment system on a national basis. Is going to be incredible boost for banks who, and this is the big who, will be able to utilize that advantage. So very important.
Yes, indeed. That's, of course, game-changing for us. But, which sectors next, other than banks, next to the banks?
Next to the banks, I would have to say we'd be looking at this medium-sized companies that are entering into new services, new consumer services, new industrial services in every direction. I've been meeting with a number of companies that are very, very interesting and are doing very specific services for industry or the consumer. For example, a company is working on new technology on two-wheelers. That sort of thing is very, very interesting.
Okay, I would assume you mean the electric vehicles. But, okay, we are running out of time. I believe I cannot, I can ask only one more question. But I wanted to know, I thought you would mention sectors like insurance. Many of those stocks have done well and more are going to list. You like them?
Of course. Again, those insurance companies that are able to utilize the digital world are going to be in a much better shape, and the advantages are tremendous. There are a lot of things hitting these insurance companies now in terms of more efficiency, and those survivors will be the ones that are able to utilize the digital world in offering services and also in gathering clients.
Okay, well, Mark, I believe we've run out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on this special show. So that's Mark Mobius. It'll be very interesting that we are again going to have him speak on several forums as someone who is going to start making fresh investments into India, both listed stocks as well as unlisted through Equinanimity Investments. Many thanks for watching this show.